Hello everybody, I am Tom and you are watching me play Disco Elysium. In the last episode we found some delinquents, as Kim called them, and it's probably a relatively accurate descriptor. There are a bunch of kids who wanted to start a nightclub in this old church. They tried to use me to clear out some people that they found in the church, but they omitted the fact that they were also going to be making a speed lab. So their meth lab is kind of, I found out that they were lying, and I confronted them, and they admitted it to me. So I'm going to see what's going on in here, and then, depending on what is going on in here, will depend on what punishment I decide to give them.
Heavy wooden doors, more than twice your height.
Open the padlock with a key.
Shut. The lock turns easily. You hear a click as the shackle pops open.
Let's go.
As you do, you hear the echo of the doomed commercial area. Its black halls and dusty machines. Then the feeling passes. A great whoosh of air rushes into the dark innards of the church, as though rushing to fill a great vacuum in the heart of the city.
May have to equip a torch in here, is probably a good idea. Interesting. A strange stillness fills you as you look around here. You should walk, not run. Interesting. More of the forked lightning pattern you saw outside. Bark beetles? No, it looks intentional. Some long forgotten style. This grotesque wooden figure looks half-finished. They were like heads, interestingly. The prayer book has been left open.
The silence in this part of the church, it's almost palpable. All the shifting matter and shuffling of living things is gone. Nothing seems to exist beyond the church anymore. Maybe if you were to stand in just the right spot, even your footsteps would be completely silent.
Wait, I think I still hear something.
And then it's gone. Almost all of it. But for the faintest of hums. It seems the sound here is detached from its source somehow, if not blotted out outright. Truly unusual. Sounds like the Pale.
I don't know what the Pale sounds like.
From recordings of the Far Pale. You've heard them. We all have. You can hardly hear your own breathing.
Yell as loud as you can.
Your voice is barely audible. Not a howl, but the softest of whimpers.
Stomp your feet and clap your hands.
You produce a few muffled thumps, after which the silence feels even more total, somehow.
Turn to Kim. What's happening?
The lieutenant points to his ears and shakes his head. Then he leans closer.
Can you hear anything?
Not really, but it's extraordinary. I've never experienced anything like this.
I wonder why the church was built with such strange acoustics.
Maybe the church was designed this way to prevent boisterous activity, singing and dancing, on its premises.
Whatever it is definitely real. Something odd is happening around us.
The lieutenant doesn't reply, but you can sense him tense up next to you.
Look up into the bell tower.
The orderly rows of ceiling panels become barely visible, then disappear completely in the darkness of the tower overhead.
Try to see beyond the shadows. I got double ones? Really? I want to see a Crabman.
Just darkness without end. It makes your head spin.
What's the darkness like?
Filled with vague shapes of woodwork. The sense of a great height.
Try to make out something, anything.
There's nothing. You're dizzy and disoriented as you see dark and more dark rising.
Sorry about that. Cat jumped up onto my desk.
Officer, what are you looking at?
You see something hanging from the rafters, looking straight at you with dark eyes. Maybe it's possible to talk to it.
It's a bowl filled with water, a live wire runs directly into it. Contact microphones.
Is that a man? Looks more like part of the carpentry of the building came alive and is now studying you intently. The Crabman.
Hey, who's there?
The man leaned forward a little, fixing you with a steady, unreadable gaze, then speaks.
Habitual alcohol use has made you into a scared little pussy, Holmes. But don't worry, everything's gonna be alright. You come to the right place.
That accent is Villalobos, a peninsula in Mesk and a district in Jamro. There's a sizable contingent of Villalobos-speaking Mesks in Revachol.
Right place for what?
Here you can receive the mother's love. And when you're ready, she will take your hand and lift you out of the despair at the bottom of that bottle.
This man is obviously a habitual narcotics user. Do we really need to question him?
I'm put off by this religious stuff, he thinks. And maybe the ceiling climbing, too. It's all very hard to square with the lieutenant's own view of reality.
Uh-huh.
Hey, and what was that about the bottle again? You haven't even drank that much lately. Lay off it already. Shish.
I'm a policeman. I need to talk to you about police things. I don't know anything about alcohol use.
Oh yeah, sure. You don't know anything about alcohol use. You got it all under control, Way. I could smell the control all the way over here.
I'm doing just fine, thank you.
I know it's hard to admit that you got a problem. I was like you once. Couldn't take an honest look into my own heart and see I was in pain.
You know, actually, since we're here, you may want to pay attention to what the ceiling climber is saying.
It's all well and good, but we need to talk to you about unlicensed occupation of ecclesiastic property.
The only thing we need to talk about is how the mother can really help you, Holmes. This is the Church of the Mother of Silence. You are welcome here.
You have no idea what the fuck he's talking about. Is he just trying to throw you off your game? 'Tis not an act, my liege. Save him perchance, he hath deceived his very self. This man is a zealot.
You must be the Crabman.
Never known myself to be a crab. But if that's the name you got for me, I won't stop you from using it.
Hey, it's your neighbors who came up with the name, not me.
I always thought of myself more like a flame, flickering along the rafters and beams. It may be that I gotta work on my technique.
That's not the only technique he's working on. Look at those carved sculptures. And is that a satchel of tools over there?
Did you also carve all these sculptures?
Sure am. Whittling wood used to be something I just did to busy my hands. Now I use those same hands in service of something greater than my own restlessness.
Honestly, I don't get it. All these figures look half finished.
It's all just for the mother, man. No need to overthink it.
What were you before you became a Crabman and a woodcarver?
I was in a gang way, but my memories of that time are fading. Most of them are already gone.
I lost my memory too, but I like it. It's like I get to create a whole new me, start again from scratch.
That's not really the point, I say. You gotta give yourself over to service. Service of the mother, that is.
Do you remember your name, sir?
Tiago's my name, but those syllables don't mean much to me these days. A name isn't just your identity, but also, so to speak, your place amongst your fellows, your place in the world. I ain't got no use for such a place anymore.
My name's Harry. Extend your hand for a greeting.
That's just the thing, Holmes. None of that matters.
What are you doing here?
This is a special place. There's a perforation in the world up there, a way out into nothingness. This church was built around it for purposes of veneration. I circled it, nurtured by the silence bestowed by the mother. One of these days, I'll be pure enough to go drink from it directly.
Who's this mother of silence you keep talking about?
Oh, that's no simple question, I said. She is one who can be painted or sculpted.
Is he, like... Huh. Is he worshipping the Pale?
She is a cavity in the dark beyond sense. She saved me, but I couldn't describe her to you. No one can, Holmes, and no one ever will.
What will happen once you drink from the perforation?
I will be incinerated, but not destroyed. Finally, I won with the state of the world before reality began.
That sounds a bit like substitution behavior, no? You know a thing or two about that.
Sure you didn't just switch one drug for the other?
It's not like that at all, man. It's just faith and joyful service.
Too gleeful, those words. He is lying. Not to you, to his very own self.
Faith is a kind of drug.
I heard that before, Way, and I know I can't convince you on the spot. But think, when's the last time you woke up from silent communion with a hangover, regretting what you did last night?
I think love might have been my drug of choice. I think I'm still hungover from it.
She took you for a good spin, huh? Don't worry, bro. That love is but a drop compared to the ocean of the mother's love. The mother will eat all of you and never spit you out.
I was being insensitive, sorry. Let's move on.
No worries, man. I know this shit takes time.
I still don't understand what you're doing in the church.
I'm a seraph, Holmes. I sing the mother's glory.
It doesn't really make sense for you to sing if she's the mother of silence.
I don't mean literal singing, Holmes. This is the mother of silence we're talking about. It's the singing of a burning heart. You may be thinking, but fire crackles. No, Holmes. That's the material that's burning. The flames themselves are without sound.
How'd you even find this place, this church?
Hard to say. I think I did some construction work here, back when I still had material worries. Up there, I realized what the true purpose of the church was. Been spending a lot of time here ever since. The past is nothing to me now, Way. It didn't belong to me.
And other questions.
The sinewy figure lingers on the wooden beams, blending into the shadows.
Been here a long time. Do you know why this church was abandoned?
Police raid a while back.
Did you witness it?
Not really, or at least I don't remember much of it anymore. The mother's love has done its job. That's what's so great about the mother. It lets you forget about everything.
Some ravers want to turn this place into a nightclub.
The ones in the tent outside, right? I see them. Guessing they're the ones who call me a crab. Probably scared of me.
What do you think about the nightclub, that is?
Why not? They wouldn't bother me none. I'm usually way up there, imbibing. Ain't no music on earth that can reach where I go. Might even be nice to have some company.
Huh. Perfect. Do you know where the other spooker is?
Other spooker? Oh, esa viejita es muy estudiosa. Don't know, Holmes.
Viejita is grandma?
Wait, so there is another person living in the church, and it's a viejita?
No. I just call her viejita because of her clothes. She's actually quite young. Or maybe not that young. Age is just one of the many masks we wear.
And you don't know where she is?
That's what I said, Holmes.
How can you not know when you both live here?
Don't really follow her comings and goings. Just see her typing on her computer now and then. We got different interests.
So you got nothing else for me? How she looks, what she does, who is she?
I'm afraid not, Essay. You just have to wait until she comes back, or
Search through her radio computer.
Okay then, thanks. Well, he's a weirdo, but he seems like a harmless weirdo. Huh. Silk scarf. Frost has drawn flowers on the glass, obscuring the view. A figure drawn in frost on the window depicting a deer. Cracked pane of glass, colourful. More of his carvings. A spider has spun its web around this wood-carved pillar. Mask bangers, red brogues. Some money.
In white, silver, and apricot faience, the young mother of humanism stands above you. A crack runs across her body. She is impossibly tall, oval-faced and sad. A dark and radiant majesty. This is her innocence, Dolores Day. Cradled in her arms are a pair of glowing lungs, clearly visible from underneath her flowing dress. You should kneel.
No.
Cold wind seeps in from the crack in the glass. Snowdrifts cover the floorboards at your feet. Above, you feel her multicolored eyes on you, inspecting you, as if under a microscope.
I'm not your bug.
As that bitter thought passes through your head, the lieutenant draws an X-shaped cross from shoulder to shoulder.
Not
with
on the
3
cross either.
fingers. Good call. She left us all in the shits. Don't give her a single thing. Just stand there in the apricot-colored light of the window, secretly grinding your teeth. The woman smiles her distant smile, unmoved, struck in half by the crack in the glass.
How did I know this was the mother of humanism?
Despite the damage you've done to yourself, the title appears lodged in your hippocampus. This is her innocence, Dolores Day. The innocence of humanism, internationalism, and the welfare state. Perhaps the most famous human being ever to have lived.
Interesting. A saint, effectively.
No amount of Commodore Red can wipe her sad smile from your brain thing. It has survived the deluge and haunts you still, and will haunt you forever, as it haunts all men.
What exactly is an innocence?
The highest category of historic individual, an embodiment of the world's spirit.
A ruler?
More, an innocence is elected to office by the founding party, a precedent that has taken place a mere 6 times in the entirety of history. The legal system of the Real Belt is built to accommodate an authentic rule should it coincide with our time. An innocence is infallible. The decisions made by one are not decisions. They are inevitabilities. What would have happened anyway? Only accelerated, packed into decades instead of centuries. And innocence is a continuous, compressed event, a sacred human being. It is an honor and a glory to live when one is in office.
So a tyrant. Is one in office now?
No, we are alone.
When did she rule?
300 years ago, in the wake of the discovery of this Isola, the Insulindian, by explorers from the continent of Muindi. She is, among other things, the innocence of inter-isolary travel and the connected world.
What else do I know about her?
Many things. You know she was a woman of the court, the wife of an influential Marchese, and eventually the principal advisor to Irene La Navigateur, Queen of Serene, modern-day Sir La Clé. Also that she was gorgeous beyond beauty. Draped in ancient sadness. Are you sure you want to remember this bit of historic trivia? Standing under a long, slender form like this, dwarfed?
Wait, where is this coming from?
The past. It's a silo of sadness, fermenting. You should keep away.
Got an inland
No,
empire trying
you
to
must
save me.
know.
Was she smart?
Terribly, women of the court were expected to play both contract bridge and chess sufficiently well to prove an interesting challenge to a man. A simple grasp in matters of philosophy, theology, and science was encouraged. She was, by all means, a kept woman. She made the most of her position in the ante-Delorian court.
Interesting.
A court visited by the most prominent thinkers and artists of the day. In secret, she was becoming the era's preeminent philosopher of the state. A scalpel, a piercing gaze. She was an almost preternaturally magnetic and intelligent individual. To her contemporaries, she appeared out of time, a messenger from the future of the species. We all fell in love with her, head over heels. Even before she was declared an innocence, her influence was tremendous.
Well, I guess that's the point, right? The reason you become declared an innocence is because you're so influential and people see you as someone. It's a weird system. So you have like an elected governance, and those people they find someone to give all the power to. It's a weird system.
It was on
It's
her
like a
advice that Irene
benevolent
La
dictatorship,
Navigateur
kind of?
sponsored a number of voyages into the Pale. A costly, often tragic endeavor, ultimately vindicated by the discovery of the new world, the piece of reality you're standing on.
Interesting.
She was crowned 2 years after the first expedition returned, setting in motion what is widely considered the greatest era in history. The DeLorean era.
Wow.
Wow, indeed. When her innocence was declared, and the queen she had advised for years fell on her knees before her, she was so overcome with emotion that her lungs started glowing in her chest. Bystanders reported golden filaments lighting the already sunlit chamber around her, clearly visible beneath her dress. That is why the lungs are the symbol of love for the cultures of the Real Belt.
I want more.
As did we all. The lands of the Mesk and the Occident, and even faraway Supramuindi, altogether 21 of the 40 mundial nations of the time, immediately accepted Innocentic rule, even before her crowning.
A crowning?
In a city called Advesperaskit in Vespa Messina, her homeland, the name of the city means evening comes, but it happened on a winter's morning, with the canals frozen and slush falling out of the sky. She was dressed in a white and pearl dress on an emptied-out plaza with the crowd far away. Already, her Theriers, the secret servicemen of the Innocents, were worried about an assassination attempt.
It is really interesting. So you have someone who is incredibly influential, and so you take great people, You then venerate them to become an innocence, which makes them almost like not a god-like figure, but a religious-like figure, someone that you like renovate. I said renovate. Venerate is what I meant. It sounded wrong in my head. I was like, I said that word incorrectly. It's higher than like a saint, but it's less than a god. Do you know what I mean? Having said that, there's a church to her, so I guess maybe it is more significant of like deifying someone. It's very interesting. She must have been beautiful.
Oh yes, she looked like humanity's young mother, a perfect mother, insultingly beautiful. It was as if her face and shoulders and hands were covered in a soft down of underfeathers. You know this well, very well. Midwinter snow was beating the cobblestones around her. A small attaché of officials stood by as her Theriers placed a white gold wreath on her head. The crowning was mostly witnessed by Secret Servicemen.
Then what?
One of the men in this Secret Service killed her 22 years later. A young man who had come to suspect that Dolores Day was not entirely human, but something else.
What did you think she was?
Something that had walked in our midst, watching us stumble for hundreds, if not thousands of years, until it decided to interfere in the course of our history. We were supposed to come up with this ourselves. The man was reported to have screamed at the innocents. Dolores Day was shot in the chest with a fowling piece 8 times.
Jesus.
The man, thought to be insane, said he once touched her and her body had been unnaturally warm, like a furnace, and that sometimes, while on duty, he observed her forgetting to breathe for over 10 minutes. This inhuman quality was witnessed by many others as well, glowing lungs and all. It is commonly attributed to mass hysteria and religious psychology.
Was there something terrifying about her?
Terrifying is a term too emotionally charged for your semantic memory, or
Interesting.
what remains of it. But terrifying, it's a simple word. She was bad for humanity, and you shouldn't have started thinking about her.
No, there was something bad about her. I want to know.
You already do. Although she is often considered to be the greatest human being to ever live, there was something ominous about Dolores Day. Constantly surrounded by her Theriers, she was the most socially secluded and least self-aware of all the innocences. Some modern thinkers would consider her a war criminal for the campaigns she waged against the Mesk state. And then there were the resettlement programs.
Yeah, so she became a tyrant because she had ultimate power, which isn't surprising. And it seems that at least the encyclopedic part of my brain is saying the rationalization for why she was so insane, and not insane, but so militant, was because she was so separated that she didn't have empathy anymore. What happened?
The Mesk state tried to detach itself from innocentic rule. Parts of the world were experiencing whiplash from accelerating into secularism. Her mandatory education programs and mass resettlement of upstream Marguerite were problematic as well. Dissenters were suppressed by a military force she called the Army of Humanity, suggesting those who fight against it are not part of humanity. She adored chess, yes, but also military war games. Dolores Day often holds a tiny tin soldier between her index finger and thumb in icons such as this. She was also blonde, the blondest woman you have ever seen, with green eyes the color of the Pacentic, mare interregnum. Little is known of her Marchese husband. It's as if he vanished from history after completing his role, which was to introduce Dolores Day to court. In conclusion, yes, there is something lonely, paranoid, and even terrifying that people seldom mention, but feel when they think of her. This subtle terror is part of her iconography.
Lieutenant Yefrater, you've stood there for over 5 minutes. What are you thinking of, if I may ask?
Whoa, criminal! She's beautiful.
That she is. A great sacred piece. I wonder what we are doing here, however. In this church, I mean. The coast in general. We shouldn't linger. This isn't a good place to get lost in.
This is Dolores Day.
Yes. I wasn't sure before, but this must be the Delorian Church of Humanity in Martinez. It's called the Small Pinewood Church in some records.
You know of the place?
It's a minor landmark, not easy to find. Most maps misplace it. It was built not long after Ravachol's founding, 300 or so years ago, by first-generation settlers.
On the coast of an uninhabited archipelago where only animals had roamed before, in the wild reeds.
Makes sense. What else do you know?
There used to be 7 stave churches on the coast. Les Sept Sœurs, they call them. The 7 Sisters. Only one remains. The rest were burnt in the revolution or used for building materials. We should be respectful here, although the building appears to be deserted. I do not believe we'll find anything connected to the lynching here. Something else, perhaps?
Respectful? Is the lieutenant a follower of Delorianism?
Kim, do you follow Delorianism?
Yes, we all are. Her name, body, and rule are synonymous with humanism. The laws we enforce are Delorian in origin.
I didn't think you were spiritual.
It's not spiritual, it's constitutional. The Delorian system does not demand faith, only accordance.
Fair enough. Now let's try and reconstruct this cracked glass, shall we?
A jigsaw of broken shards falls into place in front of you. A ghostly reconstruction of the stained glass window. Before it was shattered, there was an older woman beneath the younger one. And a text. A light motif below them both.
I've never heard the idea of a leitmotif in writing before. I've only ever used it in the context of music, when I did music theory, fucking 15 years ago. The motto, what does it say?
Below both women, in luminous black letters, Après la vie, mort. Après la mort, la vie de nouveau. And then, along the left side, Après le monde, la gré. Après le gré, le monde de nouveau. After life, death. After death, life again. After the world, the pale. After the pale, the world again. This is the great leitmotif of humanism.
Interesting.
A summary of the effect of the discovery of this isola, the Insulindian, on human thinking. A tremendous sea change akin to finding life after death.
Let's tell him.
Death, life again. After the world, the pale. After the pale, the world again. This exaltation is common in Delorian sacralism. In the early years, it was even incorporated as the RCM slogan. No more, however.
What is the RCM motto now?
Justice, union, prudence, and force.
I like the other one better.
So do I.
Who is this older woman?
The escutcheon on her throne says, Irene the Navigator. She is depicted
it's the
as
Queen.
an older woman wearing thick-rimmed eyeglasses, holding a golden rights apfel in one hand and a scepter in the other. This is the Queen her innocence day advised. Above, she herself is whole. Small figures of wise men, common men, worshippers walk up the stairs to stand at her feet. Secret servicemen, Theriers, stand in a row guarding her. It must have taken years to produce this work in all its dizzying detail.
What shattered this mosaic?
Unknown. A motor carriage, a gunshot, someone falling into it, or maybe just hooligans looking for something to break. The mother of humanism towers above you, a wax painting on a cracked pane of glass, Nothing has changed in her expression.
Interesting. Well, we're way over time, but that was very interesting to talk about. It kind of gives, like, huge amounts of context to this world. And it's interesting. It's a really interesting system. Nevertheless, that's going to be it for this episode. I'll investigate all this shit later. In the next episode. So if you like that video, please leave a like. If you're not subscribed, please consider subscribing. And as always, thank you for watching, and I shall see you next time. Where we're going to look at all of this data that this person's doing. I'm assuming what they're investigating this weird kind of... I don't know, it's almost like a small part of the pail in the middle here. It's very weird, or it's just built like that.
Hey, her Innocence Dolores Day liked little figurines, right? Liked holding little men between her fingers, remember?
What?
You have the Headless Falcon Rider figurine. You should give it to her. Win her back.
What? Win who back? I can't win her back. She's a long-dead historical figure.
Don't be so pessimistic. Love doesn't die that easily. This isn't funny. You have a bad feeling about this one.
This is a task of mine now.
So very, very, very nifty. Nifty and mysterious. This is surely what the figurines are for.
I'm an idiot. Okay. As I said, that's going to be it. I'll see you next time, guys.